Johann Sebastian Bach lived from 1685 to 1750. He was a distinguished member of a family of musicians that extended for 8 generations. He first worked as a violinist, then as a court organist, and wrote most of his works for violin and organ during his early years, during which he married his cousin, Maria Barbara. Back then, people did that. He then accepted a position as a court conductor, where he wrote his most significant chamber and orchestral music, including the Brandenburg Concerto that you just heard. In 1720, his wife died, leaving him with 4 young children. He married Anna Magdalena Bach, a marriage that produced another 13 children. She also becomes significant in that somehow, in her free time, she wrote down Bach's easier harpsichord pieces in her own notebook, which is still used by early intermediate pianists today, called the Anna Magdalena Bach Notebook. 3 years after their marriage, he became the director of music at St. Thomas Church in Leipzig. Here he was required to compose 59 cantatas a year. You'll hear a cantata soon. It is no quick thing. Passion music for Good Friday, Magnificats for Vespers for 3 festivals, an annual cantata for the installation of the city council, and occasional funeral motets and wedding cantatas. He was also responsible for the music instruction of 55 students. Somehow he managed to do that with 17 children. Bach wasn't famous in his lifetime. His music was rediscovered by Felix Mendelssohn in the mid-1800s, which led to a huge Bach revival. Now, his fugues, suites, concerti, and cantatas are staples of both training and concert repertoire. He composed several suites, series of 4 or more dance movements with different rhythms, tempos, and textures. The only thing that all of these movements have in common is that they are all written in the same key. They were meant to be used for listening, not for dancing. You have in your ebook 3 of the movements of Bach Suite in D major to give you a feel for their contrasting characters. I told you in the first lecture that rather than teach you all about all the forms at once, I would teach you about them as we encountered them in each era. This is a good time to teach you about one of the most basic musical forms, binary form. We'll listen first to the 4th movement, called the bourrée, because it's shortest and easiest to hear the melodies. Listen carefully to the beginning of the first melody. We'll call that melody A. Then when we hear it again, we'll say, another A. Then when we hear a different melody, we'll call it B, and when we hear that again, we'll go B again. So binary form first presents one melody, then another melody, and then it's over. Now, usually it'll repeat. It'll do first melody and then repeat that melody, then second melody, and then repeat that melody. But in analyzing forms, direct repeats do not change the form. A, B, 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 B is still abbreviated AB, which are the letters that refer to binary. Here is the bourrée, which you have in your ebook. Let's listen to another movement in binary form, the 2nd movement, which is called an air, and is so beautiful that it is often extracted and performed alone, sometimes at weddings. All 3 of the movements in your ebook in the section on the Baroque suite are in binary form. In fact, binary form was used so frequently during the Baroque that it is sometimes called Baroque binary. Other Baroque instrumental works that you'll find in concert literature include the sonata, which is also a multi-movement work used by both soloists and ensembles. There was no specified form designated for the sonata. It simply was a catch-all term for an instrumental piece rather than a vocal piece. However, when we get to the classical era, the sonata will definitely have a form. Bach's largest contribution to music history, though, was his development of the fugue.